Hello Coralie, this is my feedback to your summary from last week. Okay, let's start. His lecture title, name of the professor, argues that, okay, good use of reporting verb for our dynamic society. It is important to understand the difference between innovation and invention. Okay, that's a very good way of putting it. It's a very descriptive video. It's not so easy to make out an argument, but you did a good job. Your first sentence is excellent, I would say. Firstly, he explains definitions. Okay. Now, I don't want to encourage you to use quotations because part of the summary is only 200 words, right? We're trying to do our best to use our own words. You can include a very short quotation, maybe a word or a very short phrase, but this is probably too long. In such a short paragraph, we want to stay away from quotations, right? I know it's very difficult to paraphrase this, but you can still try. And of course, this is the only thing you've quoted. Everything else, I'm sure, the main trick, you did use your own wording, right? So and here you probably just thought it was too difficult, and I agree, it is too difficult, but this quote is a little too long. We can say, how about this? You could say, as Archibuggi explains, comma, all inventions start out or have their origins or originate as, all innovations originate or start out as inventions. But not all inventions become innovations, something like that. So yes, you can repeat these terms, but these are key terms, so that's not a problem. Everything else you can just phrase in your own words. Try, I'm sure you can do that because you've done it elsewhere. After that, now professor with a capital without an article in front is a little bit strange. The professor or the speaker, right? Or simply Archibuggi, you can just use his last name. In academic language, we often use the surname, right? Or the speaker or the lecturer. I would just say use the name or the speaker, right? But if you use the professor, at least there should be an article here. And it certainly should not be with a capital. Tested the ability of the students to distinguish between innovation and invention by showing different pictures of innovations. Okay, sure. Now look at how many times we've repeated innovation, invention, innovation, invention. That's fine. But what if it's a little too repetitive, I would say. Just again here, again here. So what can we do if we wanted to avoid repetition? Repetition of key terms is okay in academic language, but if you wanted to avoid it, make it a little kind of more interesting. You could say one of the ways, the lecturer goes on, or to test the student's ability, I think you've done very well here, to distinguish between the two concepts, right? We know which concepts we're talking about because we've already mentioned them, right? Here you could say, firstly, he explains the definitions of the two concepts. And you can pick that up instead of repeating. You see, you could set up the type of phrasing earlier on, which then you can pick up on, which does not repeat this. So firstly, he explains the definitions of the two concepts, and then you can say here, between the two concepts. So you've only repeated concepts twice. Now that you've said, you've interrupted that repetition, later on, you can pick up on innovation and invention. Do you see? So that creates a bit of variety. So you're not repeating only one thing over and over again. Okay, by showing different pictures, sure. He claims that the main trick, okay, that's a little informal, but I applaud your effort to paraphrase, to distinguish. Why don't you just say the main distinguishing feature or something like that, a little bit more academic? Between them is to ask if we can buy that invention in the market or order via the internet. Sure, why not? Or you can say if it is widely available or if it is a commercialized product available on the market. That would kind of rephrase the whole idea. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this, but again, it is repeating invention, innovation. You can just say one of the most important distinguishing characteristics of innovations is that they are usually a product which is commercialized and widely available on the market. And that's it. You don't even have to mention invention, because by implication, if that distinguishes innovation, then it doesn't apply to invention, something like that. So if you want to, you can rephrase to avoid that repetition. That's, by the way, another trick that you can use. Remember, you're talking about tricks. Our ability to buy it means that someone making money on this invention. Okay, this is a little bit informal here. That is, this invention is innovation. Yeah, I think we don't need this bit, by the way. If it is all of this can be said in one sentence. If it is a product available on the market, sold for profit, then it is an innovation. And that's it. You've saved some space, you've economized on the word limit, and you've phrased it a little bit more academically. Someone making money is a little bit informal, right? And then again, you would avoid this repetition. Okay? So again, I would say rephrase this, both to avoid repetition and also just to say it somewhat more academically. Also, he points, remember present tense. He points. We use the present for reporting verb, right? Usually the present simple. Also, he points out that there are a lot of inventions that were not implemented in the market and can be called innovation. Again, this point, we've already made the point, right? Look at how much space you're spending here. All of that can really be said much more briefly, concisely, in one sentence. Make the distinction. If it's a product available on the market, commercialized, for profit, it's an invention. Be done with that and move on. Now, there aren't a lot of supporting ideas in this video, I understand that, because it's very descriptive. But he does mention other things. In addition, according to the author, it is very difficult to predict. Now that's a good, cool thought, because he did end with that. And how it, in his turn, will affect why in his turn? In its turn, right? In its turn, sure. If you want to use that phrase, no problem. But overall, this idea is a very good central supporting idea that he was talking about. Now, I would say you can expand this, because he did spend quite a bit of time with that pen when he was talking about how the pen was really, it started out as a apparently insignificant invention. The patent was even turned down, but then later on, once it became an innovation and became commercialized, it had an enormous economic impact, and we cannot really predict whether an innovation will have a huge impact or not. So you can say all of that, but of course without mentioning the pen, because we stay away from examples in our summaries. But you could spend a little bit more time kind of unpacking that idea, right? To sum up, the distinction between innovation and invention can be crucial for the market and economy. Sure. Again, this whole paragraph is very well structured, clear, everything is clear, it's good, sentence structure works. You have used quite a lot of good phrasing in academic style, some cohesion also, you know, reporting verbs. You've done everything that we need to do going by the rubric. So I would just say there's a bit of repetition here, right? Sorry, from this one. I would make that a little bit more concise because that's really one supporting idea. If it's a product on the market, it's an innovation. And I would spend a little bit more here. What can start out as a seemingly neglected, insignificant invention can potentially have an enormous impact on society when it becomes an innovation, and that impact is not always predictable. It's a kind of a paradoxical idea that he ended with, and he kind of pulled out the pen as a magic trick, you know, see this little thing, who would have thought, and now everybody is using it. So overall I would say good work, Coralie. It's a well structured, well written summary. Given the circumstances, you did a good job. The video was quite difficult to summarize because it was very descriptive, but you did well here. I hope this feedback is helpful. Keep up the good work.